Welcome back to Tanya in 5. The last few days we have been studying chapter 30. We are in the midst of a journey. The end goal is joyous attachment to God. At the beginning of that journey, in chapters 26, 27, and 28, the Alter Rebbe addressed a number of things that might cause us to be worried, anxious, or sad, and he gave us tips on how to deal with that. In chapter 29, the Alter Rebbe began to address another issue that might prevent us from getting this joyful attachment to God, and that is what he termed Timtum Halev, the blocked heart, or the cold complacency, the self-assured comfortability in where one is stationed in life. And that's preventing this person from really motivating themselves to make real change and to invest in their passionate attachment to God. To this, the Alter Rebbe said in chapter 29 that one should look their ego in the face and break it down by reminding oneself that the very notion of me thinking I'm fine and that egotistical and self-centered way of living in and of itself makes me so far removed from God that I need to make a radical change in my outlook. And that breaking down of the ego will allow for the soul's light to shine forward. In chapter 30, the Alter Rebbe gives us another path by which we can break the shell of our ego and allow the heart to start to feel for God. Namely, at times, the reason for this cold complacency and this arrogant self-assuredness is because we compare ourselves to others. We look at ourselves and we say, I'm a pretty good guy. I learn, I pray, I give charity, I do my best. If there are people in the world that need to change, I know some other people who need to change. I know some people who are entrenched in some sins that I would never do. So I'm pretty good. There are other guys, they need to change. Says the Alter Rebbe, you're right. There are people you know who, as far as their exterior behavior goes, may need to do a little changing. May need to stop doing certain sins. That's true. But think about what that person would need to do to make that change you are expecting of them. Think about what are the circumstances of that person's life that led that person down that path of behavior. What's the person's job? Where do they live? Who do they engage with all the time? What's their psychological makeup? What's their upbringing? Take all that into consideration and ask yourself, for that person to stop sinning, what kind of inner strength would they have to muster? What kind of effort, gut-wrenching effort, would this person have to do to stop sinning? And then ask yourself, do you ever put that kind of effort in your service of God? Do you ever invest that kind of effort into your prayer, into your learning, into your charity? For this person to stop sinning, they'd have to really, really control themselves and completely break their nature. Do you break your nature when you're giving charity? Do you break your nature when you're studying Torah? Or do you study what makes you feel comfortable? You're in the middle of having a great chat about somebody else, and it isn't necessarily so positive. Are you willing to stop yourself mid-sentence and say, hey, this is wrong behavior? How much effort would it take for you to do that? I'm sure it's not nearly as much effort as it would take for that other guy to stop sinning. And until we have invested that kind of effort in our attachment to God, we've got ways to go. The takeaway from all of this is, in addition to the obvious, is perhaps the following. It's very difficult for people to not judge others. It's in our nature to think about others and compare ourselves to others. Says the Alter Rebbe, that's fine, but take it to its limits. Don't just judge the other person and their behavior and say, oh, I disapprove. Maybe their behavior isn't so good. True, but take it all the way to its limits. What kind of effort are you expecting of them to change their ways? What kind of effort are you expecting of yourself to improve your ways? Looking forward to seeing you when we conclude chapter 31.